Alright, we are live, ladies and germs. Finally. It took all the way till Saturday for NASCAR to finally post the damn race on their YouTube channel, which is kind of frustrating because they usually post it on Tuesday, and they decided to wait all the way till Saturday, which I thought was kind of weird considering the historic ramifications that this race had. Whatever. But we're here. We're going to be talking about it now, and whether people like it or not, it's a race that's going to be remembered for a long time to come, especially in the African American community. So without further ado, let's finally get into this review. I'm sorry it took so damn long to get to this point, but you can blame NASCAR for that one, since, I mean, the race got moved to Monday due to weather, and considering I have a 9-to-5 job, you know, I wasn't able to watch the race as it happened, so that kind of sucks. But it is what it is. But I've watched the race, I've gotten all my notes and all that other shit, so we're going to get into things. So strap in, lock and load. This is the fuel. What's happening, ladies and germs? This is the Packer Man, and welcome to tonight's edition of The Fuel, where tonight we are going to be talking about the 2021 YellaWood 500 from the Talladega Superspeedway that took place on Monday afternoon. This is our 117th edition of The Fuel. Title of today's episode: Wendell, you finally have company. Of course, referring to Wendell Scott, who up until Monday was the only African American driver to ever win at what we now know as the Cup Series. Back then it was known as the Grand National Series, but we know it today as the NASCAR Cup Series. And for almost 58 years, Wendell Scott was the only driver of color to win at NASCAR's highest level. He did it in December of 1963 at a little short track in Jacksonville, Florida, where they awarded someone else the win, but it turned out he had ran 2 extra laps in a 200-lap race. I think that was kind of manufactured because, you know, racial tensions were pretty crazy back then. I mean, they still are today, but they were, from what I heard, they were pretty crazy back in the day, especially if you were a NASCAR driver, and a mostly southern sport at the time. So, but that was basically Wendell's only victory in the Cup Series, and he eventually passed in 1990 after suffering from spinal cancer, which is a shame, and he was eventually inducted into the NASCAR Hall of Fame in 2015. Well, on Monday, he finally has company atop the NASCAR world, as Bubba Wallace earns his maiden Cup Series victory after the race finally got rained out. I mean, Mother Nature was pretty much a bitch all week. There were a lot of people that were speculating that because of the way the weather was, they probably wouldn't get the race in until Thursday at the latest, but they managed to get it in on Monday. Well, for the most part, it was only 117 laps run, which is about a 300-mile race, kind of similar to similar distance to the Xfinity race. But yeah, Bubba Wallace earns his maiden Cup Series victory at his home racetrack. He's from Mobile, Alabama, so his first career win is at his home racetrack. So that's probably a pretty big deal. But of course, the biggest deal, obviously, he's the first African-American driver to win in the Cup Series since Wendell Scott in 1963. So Wendell Scott finally has company in that regard. He's no longer the only African-American to win in the Cup Series, and I'm pretty sure he's looking down and smiling at that. In addition to this, because we had another first-time winner this season, that means we have had 199 different Cup Series winners in its history. And with Bubba's win, how many different drivers does that make that have won in the Cup Series this season? Because the season of parity continues. Of course, you have some drivers that have been obviously uber good, like Denny Hamlin, who's won twice. You've had, of course, Kyle Larson, who's won 6 times this year. But there have been a lot of different winners so far this season. So how many different winners have there been? You know what, let's go to Racing Reference. It'd probably be a little bit easier on Racing Reference. I'm moving around, damn it. Alright, so 2021 driver standings. Alright, so how many winners have there been? There have been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 16 different winners in 2021. That is insanity. Like, that would encompass a full playoff field. That's how crazy this season has been. Now, obviously, Larson has led the way with 6 wins, Truex has 4, Ryan Blaney has 3, and Alex Bowman has 3. But, good Lord, 16 different drivers have won this year in the Cup Series. It looks like Dougie Fresh is watching me. Hey Dougie, just doing the Talladega review finally, since NASCAR decided to post the fucking race on their YouTube page that they usually do on Tuesday. That was the other kind of annoying thing, because usually after the race is done, they usually post their full NASCAR races without any of the commercials and shit on their YouTube page on Tuesdays. And I figured they would do the same thing here, or at least wait till Wednesday. I mean, but they decided to put it up today, which makes no goddamn sense. Because, I mean, especially with something that is as historically significant as this race was, especially the outcome of it, why would you wait all the way till Saturday to post it? Like, that makes no goddamn sense. Like, why would you wait that long? Unless there are other outside circumstances that cause that to be delayed, but, I mean, I just find it really unusual that they would wait that long to post the Talladega race on their YouTube page, especially considering the historical significance of it. I don't know, that's just me. But, obviously, Bubba's win caused a major stir online, because, you know, he's admittedly a very polarizing figure in the sports world. Obviously, there are a lot of people that don't like him. for various reasons. And I've criticized him in the past, you know, for some of the dumb shit he's done. I mean, I remember criticizing him for what he did after the Charlotte road course race 2 years ago, which ironically is the next race coming up. But I criticized him for his actions afterwards, not because of his skin tone or racial background or whatever the hell else that people like to bring up. That shit gets on my nerves. It really does. I mean, if you don't like the guy based on his like political beliefs, or you don't like how he is as a person or how he conducts himself, that's one thing. If you don't like him because of his skin color, that's where we're gonna have a fucking problem. Like, that is some of the dumbest fucking bullshit that humanity has ever created. Like, why would you hate on somebody because of how dark their skin color is? Like, does anybody even realize how fucking stupid that sounds? Like, seriously. Listen to how fucking dumb that sounds. And why don't you like this guy? Well, he has a darker skin color than me. Who gives a fuck? Like, why is that such a big thing? Fucking stupid is what I think it is. But obviously he is a polarizing figure. He does have his detractors, both good and bad. But he also has his supporters, and a few of his supporters have come in the form of course, the Scott family, as Wendell Scott's son and grandson reacted to the win. So let's go to Twitter. Where the hell is this at? Oh, there we go. So, display capture. So, here it is. Warwick Scott Sr., grandson of Wendell Scott, tweeted this after it was confirmed that Bubba Wallace was declared the winner. "You can't swim standing on the bank. Rip Wendell Scott. Congratulations, Bubba Wallace. We salute you." So, obviously, the Scott family was very proud of the fact that Bubba Wallace won, because, you know, he's basically joining Wendell as the only African American drivers who have ever won at NASCAR's highest level. But that's not he was not the only member of the Scott family who reacted to Bubba Wallace's victory. Wendell Scott's son, Franklin, actually made a little message, a video message, to Bubba Wallace. And give me 1 second here. It's full screen. So this is what Wendell Scott's son, Franklin, had to say.
"I've been waiting for more than 50 years to see this moment. I think of the perseverance and the determination of my father. It's like my father said one time, quitting is not in the plan. If anybody thinks I'm going to quit, they are making a mistake. You don't quit, you keep going. Congratulations, Bubba."
I've been waiting more than 50 years to see this moment. That is a pretty powerful statement, to say the least. Because I'm pretty sure he watched his father score that win in Jacksonville, Florida, all the way back in 1963. And he had to wait more than half a century to see something similar happen again in the Cup Series. And I honestly cannot imagine what he must have felt when Bubba was declared the winner after the Reigns game. Because, I mean, it must have been such a euphoric moment, not just for Bubba Wallace, but for the entire Scott family, you know, to see that happen. Especially considering it wasn't that long ago that NASCAR actually gave the family basically a big old trophy. It was a celebration of Wendell Scott. I can't remember what event they did it in. It was about a month ago, I think, because I actually covered it in a review, where NASCAR gave the Scott family a trophy commemorating Wendell Scott's victory at Jacksonville. And then, lo and behold, about a month later, Bubba Wallace scores the win at Talladega. And there's going to be a lot of people saying, Cat, would you please stop that? There's going to be a lot of people saying, oh, it's a Mickey Mouse win, you only won it because of the rain. Dude, everybody there was racing the rain, okay? And Bubba Wallace managed to work his way out front and was out front when the race ended. It is what it is. And a win's a win's a win. It still counts on the record book. And if you want to put an asterisk next to it, I mean, that's your deal, but you're just going to look like a total fucking moron. As one of my shitties wants some attention while I'm trying to do a review. What do you want, you little shit? Look at this cat. Meow. Do you want to say hi into the microphone? Or do you just want to rub it? Huh? Want to say hi? Want to say hi? Of course he doesn't want to. You can probably hear him purring though. Little butthead. Alright, come on. Come on. So, with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into some other news stories that happened during this past week. Another one that kind of happened was Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Has decided to re-sign with JTG Racing for 2022 to remain in the 47 car, which, I mean, it really isn't that much of a surprise. I mean, where else is he going to go at this point? I mean, all the other good rides have been snapped up. I mean, he has basically nowhere else to go. I mean, there's no other rides available. So, I mean, he basically didn't have, very much choice other than to remain at JTG for 2022. I mean, he's had some decent runs this season. I mean, I think he finished second at the Bristol Dirt Race. And of course, he had some good runs in the plate races, but still hasn't been able to get that third career win that he's been looking for about 6 years now. And there have been times where he's still known as Ricky Stenhouse, or as I like to call him, Ricky Shithouse. But, I mean, he's going to remain with JTG for 2022. I mean, not really that big of a surprise. What was a surprise and turned into a tragedy of pretty crazy proportions, especially when you look into the backstory of what happened here. Cat, get off my hand for a second. John West Townley was killed in a domestic dispute this weekend, or this past weekend, before Talladega. Of course, John West Townley was a former truck series driver and also drove occasionally in Xfinity. And of course, his parents own the restaurant chain Zaxby's, which basically provided a lot of the funding for his NASCAR career. And he was basically known as a paid driver for the most part because of that, because of his family money connections. Well, he retired from NASCAR competition a couple years ago and had basically, kind of fallen off the map in terms of like the public eye until this past weekend, when he was killed in a shooting in Georgia last Saturday night. And the backstory into this was it's pretty disturbing, to say the least, and it makes me wonder if there were any underlying causes. And why I say that, let's go full capture here. Former NASCAR driver John West Townley killed in a shooting. Former NASCAR driver John West Townley was shot and killed Saturday night after an altercation. Townley was 31. A press release from the Athens-Clarke County Police Department stated that police responded to a shooting at 8:44 p.m. Eastern Saturday night. The report states that the initial investigation indicates that John West Townley arrived at the residence of ex-wife Laura Townley and Zachary Anderson. A police report states that John West Townley attacked Laura Townley and Anderson with a hatchet. The report states that Anderson fired several shots. The report states that John West Townley was shot through the chest and Laura Townley was accidentally struck in the abdomen. John West Townley died at a hospital from his injuries. Laura Townley sustained serious injuries and is expected to survive. The investigation is ongoing. Townley competed in NASCAR from 2008 to 2016. He ran 110 Camping World Truck Series races and 76 Xfinity races. He had one career victory, a win in the trucks race at Las Vegas Motor Speedway on October 3rd, 2015. Now you're probably wondering, what the hell was going on here. Shit. My screen gets moved around here. Now you're probably wondering what the hell happened there. And why, John West would attack his ex-wife Laura. Well, as it turned out, they had gone through a bitter divorce, which actually got settled this past week, the week of the attack. And I don't know what would possess John West to go to her home, and I'm guessing that this Zachary Anderson is her boyfriend. I'm guessing that's who he is. But I don't know what would possess them to go after them with a hatchet. I mean, I don't know what the reasoning behind that would be, other than fucking insanity. But it really makes me wonder if there were any underlying issues that may have caused that, like CTE. Because John West Townley was involved in a lot of accidents. I mean, he was not exactly the best driver, and he ended up tearing up a lot of equipment, and some of those hits he took were pretty damn hard. And we saw with Dale Jr., what a concussion, can do. I mean, concussions pretty much sidelined Jr. for most of 2016 and eventually led to his early retirement. And we've also seen in the past, like with NFL players and wrestlers, where concussion issues can cause, personality shifts and psychosis and all this other bullshit that happens with them. So I really do wonder if he was suffering from some form of CTE. I don't know. I'm not gonna pass judgment on this. I mean, I'm not gonna condone what John West did. I mean, attacking someone with a hatchet, regardless of who it is, it's just absolute insanity. but it really makes me wonder if he was suffering from some form of CTE, you know, some kind of something that he picked up from all the possible concussions that he had. I don't know. I don't have the answer, and according to the story, the investigation is ongoing. So, you know, obviously this is an ongoing thing that's going on right now. We'll probably get an update at some point in the near future, and when that happens, I'll pass it along in a later review. So pretty sad all around. Feel for both families. John West's parents, who, you know, now lost their son. I mean, just absolutely senseless, man. I mean, I don't know what would possess him to do something like that, and it ultimately cost him his life. Just messed up, man. But putting that to one side, trying to get back on track here. There was another bit of history that was made at Talladega this weekend. For the first time ever, this has never happened since all three of the top divisions have been in existence. There were first-time winners in all three divisions in the same weekend. The Truck Series, Tate Fogelman basically crashed his way to a win. I forget who spun out coming down the front stretch to take the win away, and then he got spun as he crossed the line. His truck was completely wrecked, but he ended up with his first career win. And then in the Xfinity Series, the race was called early due to darkness, and Brandon Brown, driving a family-owned car, ended up in victory lane, and the crowd was chanting "Fuck Joe Biden," and the person interviewing Brandon Brown was like, well, they're saying "Let's go Brandon." No, they were saying "Fuck Joe Biden." They were obviously trying to do some damage control there. And then obviously Bubba ended up in victory lane as well. So for the first time ever, there were three first-time winners in all three divisions at the same track in the same weekend. That's pretty impressive. That's pretty damn incredible. I mean, I think the Truck Series started in 1995. So 26 years, and it never happened, and it finally happens, of course, at Talladega, because Talladega just has that reputation of producing first-time winners. You know, it's just the way it is. But give me 1 second. I need to go get a beverage, and I will be right back. Pepsi. Not sponsored, by the way, although I wish I was. My throat was getting a little dry. But anywho, with all those out of the way, let's go ahead and get into this review. So the race was scheduled to go 188 laps. With stages 1 and 2 being 60 laps and stage 3 68 laps, but it was shortened to 117 laps due to rain. There were a couple of drivers that had to go to the rear due to tech inspection issues, but those were back markers, so who gives a shit. Stage 1, 60 laps. Denny Hamlin starts from the pole. We had some 3 wide early on, and Kyle Busch led lap 1. Logano gets a push from Kez to take the lead. for our first pure lead change on lap 2. Then we had Logano and Kyle Busch side by side for the race lead. Kyle would lead lap number 3, which would give us our second pure lead change. Inside line starting to move, but the Penske boys are lined up on the outside. Harvick comes roaring around the outside with help from Logano for our third pure lead change on lap 6. Harvick leading the Penske boys on the outside. Basically, all 4 of them were there. By 4, I also mean the Penske affiliated team of the Wood brothers with Matt DiBenedetto. Cole Custer making his presence known in the top 5 early on. He actually had a decent run early on in this race. DiBenedetto had a run on the inside of Harvick to take the lead for a fourth pure lead change in lap 12. Harvick fights back on the outside. We had 3 wide up front for the race lead. And then we started getting some shuffling around, and we get some quick hitter lead changes. Harvick on lap 14 for pure lead change number 5. Then Martin Truex led a lap or 2. That was pure lead change number 6 on lap 15. And then lap 17, Kyle Larson would take the lead for a spell. That was pure lead change number 7. And then the camera kind of showed some weepers on the inside of the track near the start finish line. And it looked like one of those weepers was actually also in the racing line, because when the inside line would occasionally go through there, you would see some spray shooting up. Evidently it didn't cause any real issues, and I know under one caution they worked to try to dry that up a little bit. If you don't know what weepers are basically when water, especially after you've had a lot of rain, it tends to soak into the ground, and then sometimes the water tends to come up through cracks in the asphalt and can basically make a portion of the asphalt damp. And that looked like what was happening near the start finish line while this first run was going on. But it didn't seem to be causing any real issues for the drivers, which is good, because I mean, wet track plus slick tires equals no es bueno. And then Cole Custer took the lead on lap 20 for our 8th pure lead change and led it for a little bit. The longest stretch that anybody led during this race was 11 laps, and that was Brad Keselowski in the middle portion of this race. Then we had our first caution on lap 26, which was the comp caution. Everyone comes in for service, and Harvick wins the race off pit road, so he leads on the restart. Kurt Busch leads the first lap after the restart. Harvick dives underneath of Kurt for the lead in turn 3, takes it back for our 9th pure lead change on lap 34. Then the first 8 cars were in a line on the inside, trying to pull away from the rest of the pack. Harvick was moving around to try to block whatever line moved, because the outside line started coming once again. Denny Hamlin would take the lead on lap 38, and then Brad Keselowski would take it on lap 39 for our 11th pure lead change. So we had Kez and Hamlin battling side by side for the race lead. Stenhouse's decal in front of the onboard camera was actually starting to peel up a little bit. Not really sure if that was causing him any aerodynamic issues, but the crew was on the pit stop was trying to, like, I guess, use a razor blade to try to cut off the excess that was peeling up. And they eventually did get that fixed. Hamlin would take the lead once again on lap 41, and then Brad Keselowski would take it back on lap 43, so that's pure lead changes number 12 and 13. Then the choo-choo train starts forming on the outside line, but after a bit, several drivers drive to the bottom to form a strong inside line, as Keselowski also moves down to try to cover it. And of course, this was the point of the race where we saw the longest stretch of someone in the lead, which was Keselowski. Chris Buescher moves to the inside to take the lead for a 14th pure lead change on lap 54. Yes, we're still in stage 1, by the way. We had 2 and 3 wide racing through the pack, and then we had a huge playoff implicating race, or a wreck here, with our second caution on lap 56. Justin Allgaier gets spun off turn 4 by William Byron, who I guess was trying to give him a little bit of bump draft, but it actually ended up spinning the 77 car, and he actually ended up collecting Kyle Larson, doing some major damage to his left front. So that put Larson on the 6-minute clock as the 5 crew tries to repair the damage to the car, and Chris Buescher went stage 1 under caution. Everyone comes in for service. Harvick initially won the race off pit road, but then Harvick has to come back down pit road after suffering a flat tire coming off the pit road, so tough break for him. So stage number 2, also 60 laps, and of course this is when the race was called on lap 117. Logano leads the start of stage 2. Reddick jumps to the outside and rides it all the way to the front. Logano takes the lead down the backstretch, but Reddick gets a great run on the outside and leads another lap. And it looked like Logano was going to take the lead once again, but then we had our third caution on lap 67 when Kyle Larson blows a right front tire, leaving debris on the racetrack, and it put him back on the 6-minute clock after he just got off of it. So it's just one problem after another. Most of the field comes in for service under this caution, and then the rain started coming in, and they have to red flag the race on lap 74 for rain. It was only in turns 1 and 2 at this point, so they took some time to dry turns 1 and 2. At this point it was just a small cell, and it was at this point in the race that Cody Weir was leading, and there was some tweets on online that were like, stop the count, and all that shit, because it's like, oh, let's end the race right here because Cody Weir would win. Problem is, it's only lap 74, and the race has to get to lap 94 for it to be official. So we were still 20 laps away from that. But they were able to get the race back going again for a little while longer. And Justin Haley and the Kaulig Racing number 16, and that team is actually going full-time next year in the Cup Series with Justin Haley. So there's some people wondering, he's not going to be in the 11 car in the Xfinity Series next year. What's happening? Well, Kaulig is moving up to the Cup Series, and he's tabbed Justin Haley to be his driver. And of course, Haley, got what I think you could consider a Mickey Mouse win at Daytona in 2019, the 400, when he basically stayed out on a caution and it started raining, and they called the race with him in the lead. That's about as much of a Mickey Mouse win as you could probably get, honestly, and that's one you can consider a Mickey Mouse win. But like I said, a win's a win, so what can you do? And Justin Haley has proven that he is pretty damn good on the restrictor plate racetracks. I mean, he's proven it in the Xfinity Series. I think he has like 3 plate wins in the Xfinity Series driving that 11 car. So the guy can get it done on the super speedways. The question is, can he get it done anywhere else? Buescher gets pushed to the lead down the backstretch, but Bell then takes the lead from himself down the front stretch for a 15th pure lead change on lap 80. Choo-choo train forms once again, but then Hamlin dives to the bottom to take the lead for himself on lap 84 for a 16th pure lead change. Bell fights back on the high side, regains the lead on lap 87. That's pure lead change number 17. Harvick then has to run to the outside of Bell for the lead. 18th pure lead change in lap 89. Then Bell comes back with a great run on the inside to take the lead once again. Pure lead change number 19 on lap 92. Truex tries to come on the outside in the third lane, but Harvick comes up the block, and they basically lose all of their momentum. Then they finally make it to halfway. The race was now considered official in case of rain. Hint, hint. And you could see over turns 1 and 2 that it was getting darker and darker. There was another pop-up shower coming over the track, and this one was pretty damn big. One that would also produce lightning that would cause the race to be delayed as well for 30 minutes, regardless if the track was dry or not. That's another thing that I think people get a little upset about, is why do they wait 30 minutes, if a lightning strike happens within 8 miles of the track? It's not just a NASCAR thing. It's in all forms of sports, in particular outdoor sports. I think it was put into place after what happened at Pocono in 2014, when there were a couple fans that were struck by lightning after one of the Pocono races and were killed. So that's one of the reasons why I think that's been put in place. It's for the safety of the competitors as well as the safety of the fans. So that's one of the reasons why I think that's the reason why they put it in place, for safety reasons. Should it be 30 minutes? I don't know, but I mean, that's just what the policy is. Um, then Bowman comes up to challenge Bell on the outside on lap 97 for a 20th pure lead change. And then he goes from the penthouse to the outhouse in one turn. When we have our fourth caution on lap 98, when Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Gets a bump from behind from Chase Elliott, which sends him into the 48 of Bowman. And it causes Bowman to spin going into turn 3. And it collects quite a few cars. It collected Reddick, Truex, Kyle Busch, Chastain, Ryan Preece, 2 of the RWR cars. I know Cody Ware was involved. I don't know who was in the 52. But that's a running gag with those with that team. It seems like 1 or 2 of their cars get together seemingly every other week in a crash. You know, it's a running joke at this point. But they get everything cleaned up. Stenhouse leads on the restart. Bell and Stenhouse side by side for the race lead. And rain was limiting the distance as pop-up showers approached the track, which is what I said earlier. So the battle on the track was starting to get more and more intense. Bell would take the lead on lap 106. Stenhouse would take it back on lap 107. So that's pure lead changes number 21 and 22. And then Kurt Busch comes around the third lane to take the lead from everyone for a 23rd pure lead change on lap 108. Hamlin and Bell, who were working pretty well together, were doing the tandem draft thing. And they actually surged out in front with the tandem, but then Kurt Busch gets the run on them, coming down the front stretch with help from Kevin Harvick, and gets the lead back down the front stretch. Stenhouse forces Harvick to the third lane to try to make room and challenge Kurt Busch on the outside for the race lead. But then Bubba Wallace in the 23 car comes roaring around the outside himself and takes the lead for himself on lap 112 for a 24th and final pure lead change of the day. The Penske boys of Kez and Logano try to come on the outside, but Bubba blocks the run. He had to block all over the place to try to keep the race lead. And then we had our 5th and final caution on lap 116. And Ryan Preece gets spun by Chris Buescher. Again, it looked like a case of bump drafting gone bad. And it collects William Byron and Matt DiBenedetto. So, yeah, a couple guys in the playoff run now that are kind of in the danger zone. I think pretty much everybody from everybody is not locked in. Is pretty much in the danger zone at this point, as you'll see from the point standings that I'll show here in a little bit. Then the rain starts coming down hard and heavy, and this time it's over the entire racetrack, not just turns 1 and 2. So they bring everyone down a pit lane. So it's red flag number 2 for rain. And they try to get the jet dryers out to try to dry the track off. But then there was a lightning delay. They could still continue drying the track if there is a lightning delay. It's just even if the track was dry, they would have to bring the cars in and stop them for 30 minutes. That's just the rule. It sucks, but that's the rule. But NASCAR made every effort to try to get this track dry. But the problem is, a track this big, if they lose the track, it usually takes around 2 hours to dry. And it was already getting pretty late in the day, and sunset at this point in time is 6:30 p.m. So it was getting to the point where they probably weren't going to have anywhere near enough time to dry the track, and it just continued raining and raining and raining, and actually continued to rain even after they called the race long afterwards. So, I mean, this race was pretty much done and dusted. The race was finally called, and Bubba Wallace becomes the first African-American driver since Wendell Scott in 1963 to win in the Cup Series. Another big thing, his crew chief, Woody Barker. This is his first career Cup Series win as well. He's been in and out of the Cup Series for years as a crew chief, and he finally gets his first win in the Cup Series as well. So, awesome to see. And like I said before, Bubba is the 199th different driver to win in the Cup Series. Who's going to reach that magical number of 200? Who's going to be the 200th different driver to win in the Cup Series? Well, we got some new blood coming into the series next year. You got guys like, of course, you got Ross Chastain. He's moving over to Trackhouse. I think you got Harrison Burton moving up to drive the 21 car. You got Austin Cindric, who's going to be driving the 2 car. You got some new you got some new talent coming up to the Cup Series next year, and some pretty decent equipment. So, you also have Suarez in the 99. I don't think he's won the Cup Series yet. So there's quite a few candidates that could get their first career win and become the 200th different driver to win in the Cup Series in its 70-plus year history. So, pretty interesting, to say the least. But without a doubt, a pretty historic weekend for NASCAR as we head into the Roval, which will take place tomorrow, regardless if there's rain or not. I think they're only calling for a 10% chance of rain for tomorrow, though. But with or without rain, the Cup Series race at the Roval is usually crazy anyways. So, race results. Actually, race statistics. Let's do race statistics first. There were 35 overall late changes in this race, pretty standard for a Talladega race. 24 of them were pure lead changes, though, so that's quite a few pure lead changes in this race, so pretty damn good number. There were 5 total caution flags. Green flag passes, 8,852 green flag passes in this race. That's an average of 98.4 per lap. Damn. That's a lot of green flag passes, especially per lap. That's nearly 100 per lap. That's crazy. So, race results for the YellaWood 500. Yeah, Bubba Wallace with the win, a non-playoff driver, by the way. So that means that there will be 7 spots available in the round of 8 going into the race tomorrow. Brett Keselowski ends up second. Of course, he won here back in the spring. He's trying to get his 7th Talladega win and break the tie he has with Wendell Jr. Joey Logano finished 3rd. Kurt Busch in 4th. Christopher Bell 5th. Chris Buescher in 6th. Denny Hamlin, who had already advanced, finishes 7th. Kevin Harvick in 8th. Eric Jones in 9th. And Anthony Alfredo, Fettuccine Alfredo, who's been slow as fuck all year, gets his first career top 10 finish. Hey, props. Good job. I mean, I know he's had a pretty shitty year, to say the least, but hey, gets his first top 10. What else can you say? So, the point standings heading into the elimination race at the Roval. Yep. It's an elimination race, and it's going to be crazy. Denny Hamlin is the only one locked in to the round of 8. That means there are 7 spots available, but there are 11 drivers trying to fight for it. You can see at the bottom the two of the Hendrick drivers, William Byron and Alex Bowman. They're pretty much in must-win situations. Christopher Bell all but in a must-win situation. Kevin Harvick at -9, not really in that zone yet, but pretty damn close. And then you look at 2nd through 8th. 2nd through 8th is only separated by 13 points. 7 drivers separated by 13 points. You have Kyle Larson. I mean, look how important those extra, playoff points were for Larson. The 15 extra playoff points for winning the regular season title. Without those, look where he'd be. I mean, finished, I think, like 37th at Talladega. Really shitty day for Larson. So he lost a lot of points. But he's still plus 22. Still runner-up in the point standings at the moment, but he is only plus 22 now. Logano is plus 21. Keselowski and Truex plus 20. Blaney plus 15. Elliott and Busch plus 9. It is going to be tight. But Christopher Bell, William Byron, Alex Bowman, they really need to try to pull something out of their ass. Harvick still has a decent shot to get into the round of 8, and then everybody else, they're going to be walking on eggshells. The only one who's really sitting pretty is Denny Hamlin, because he won at Las Vegas. So tomorrow's going to be interesting, to say the least. As for my final rating for the YellaWood 500, all as I can say is, at least there were any stupid shenanigans shits like what happened last year. Remember what happened last year with the yellow line bullshit? At least we didn't have to deal with any of that nonsense this time around. And when the racing was on, the racing was good. I mean, as the number of lead changes indicate, it just sucks with all the rain and stuff. But overall, especially with the historic implications, you know, I thought it was a pretty good race overall when we did see racing. So my final rating for the YellaWood 500, I'm going to give it a very solid 8 on the fuel gauge. So an 8 out of 10. So I thought it was pretty good for what it was. You know, we didn't get a finish because of the rain, obviously, but you know, that's just the way it goes. But overall, I mean, it continues what has been a pretty damn solid year in terms of the racing quality for the Cup Series in 2021. I mean, there have been a few turds here and there, but for the most part, it's been pretty enjoyable. And honestly, I haven't really been feeling the burnout from watching the Cup Series this year as I had, like, say, in 2019. By the end of 2019, I was ready for the season to be done. 2020 was kind of similar in that aspect. I haven't really felt it in 2021. I haven't really felt it at all. Mainly because the racing has actually been pretty solid. I mean, Vegas, you could say, was kind of but we haven't had any really, really bad races in a while. Of course, that could happen in the next round because we got Texas as one of those races. Yeah. Not really looking forward to Texas. And that's basically due to history. I don't know if things are going to be different this time around. I hope they are. I just want to see some good racing at Texas. I mean, it's not a good track, but let's at least have a solid race at Texas and I won't have any complaints. That's what I say. I mean, for what it's worth, the All-Star race was actually pretty decent for what it was. But, you know, that's because it had a shit ton of gimmicks to it. You know, that's usually a gimmick race anyways. So, there you go. But that is going to do it for tonight's review of the YellaWood 500 at Talladega. Pretty historic weekend for NASCAR. And we got the Roval coming up tomorrow. So it's going to be busy because there's also Formula One and they're at the Istanbul circuit, I believe it's called, in Turkey, for the Turkish Grand Prix. So that's going to be interesting to say the least. But thank you very much for watching. And until next time, it's the Packer Man and the Little Shitty signing out. He's a little shitty. He's a little shitty. Want to say bye? Meow. See you later, everyone.
Thank you for watching tonight's video. Be sure to like and subscribe, you rats!